YouTube. First things first, I owe a shout out to Super Smash 43. And I know you guys have probably all heard, but his channel was recently attacked by a couple of trolls. One of his videos got falsely DMCA'd. Luckily it was restored, and the troll just ran off somewhere. But anyways, I hope you guys can sub to him if you haven't already. Fave his video, thumbs up, show him some love. Moving on. I watched a video done recently by JesusFreak777 where he explained what he felt to be several flaws with being an atheist. Now, I was going to make a half-an-hour video where I just completely swept the floor with all of his supposed flaws of atheism, but several YouTubers already did that for me. So I would appreciate if you guys checked out a few of the links I provided down below. They're all done by excellent YouTube users, and I highly recommend any one of them because they do the job fairly well. Now, I guess you can say that Jesus Freak's video was a bit of the inspiration. Well, it's really the inspiration that pulled my lazy ass up to make this video, because I've been asked this question many times in the comments section of a lot of my videos, as well as through personal messages. And it's not like I'm trying to ignore you guys, it's just that my answer takes a lot more room to discuss than 500 characters. The question goes like this: since you do not believe in God, where do you get your morality from? Now, I know this question has been answered time and time again by many other atheists, and they will probably do a much better job than I can ever hope to achieve, but I think it's time that I throw in my contribution. But before I really explain where I get my morality from, I'd like to ask you religious people a question. How exactly do you derive your morality from God, or whatever deity you happen to believe in? Now, I've asked you guys exactly how you derive your morality from God, because I personally see that as a logical impossibility, no matter how you try and phrase it. And this is best put forth through the Euthyphro dilemma. Is something right because God would have done the same thing, or does God do something because it's right? Now, this is a question I've actually been wondering even before I knew there was such a thing called the Euthyphro dilemma, and it's sort of interesting because it puts religious people into two choices, and they are the former, that something is right just because God says it's right, which means that anything God says is automatically right, no matter what sort of harm it might cause to humanity. So God can essentially kill, murder, rape, steal, do anything as long as it's God doing it, it would automatically be deemed as right. Now, if it's the latter option, then that would mean that God is not the standard for morality, and that the standard of morality, or in other words, what judges right and wrong, is outside of God's judgment. God is only the messenger telling humans what to do. He is using another standard to judge what's right and wrong, and therefore that eliminates the need for God as a standard of morality. I'm actually really interested to see what answers the religious part of my audience can come up with to the Euthyphro dilemma, because quite frankly I've never seen a really good answer. Now, that's a more theoretical reason why you don't need God as the basis for your morality, but there's a more practical one. And this really applies to the mainstream religions in particular. So, okay, taking Christians as the example, if you Christians really claim that you base your morality upon your God's teachings, and your God's teachings essentially are in the Bible, then why don't I see you doing anything in the Bible? Why don't I see you stoning adulterers? Why don't I see you stoning homosexuals? Why don't I see you trying to kill non-believers? Why don't I see you trying to kill apostles? Why don't I see you trying to rape a few Egyptians and kill Egyptian babies? Why don't I see you eating shellfish and pork? Why do I see you wearing two different types of fabrics at once? These are all things that your God deemed as immoral and wrong, and yet I see you do it every day. Now you can of course claim that, oh, we're all sinners and we all have to sin once in a while because it's inherent in human nature, but I don't see Christians giving a second thought to any of this. Of course you can argue that, oh, well, we do follow certain things in the Bible, like respect thy neighbor, honor thy mother and thy father, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so the Bible mentions those things, but do you really need the Bible to tell you to love your mom and dad and to respect your neighbor? I don't think so. These are all rules that have been inherent even way before Christianity has ever existed. These are just basic fundamental rules that have been part of certain cultures that have other gods, or more than one gods, or even certain cultures that don't have gods at all. I again refer to the Code of Hammurabi, which was written way before most mainstream religions existed. So, now I've proven that you guys really don't get your morality from God. So where do I get my morality from? And I'll have to answer you, the exact same place you do. Or at least the exact same place that most of you do. See, morality is not exactly a fixed concept, and it's not one size fits all, not quite so black and white like many of your religious scriptures make it out to be. There are many things that influence a person's morality. Certain things are innate, that are essentially handed down through evolution. That anything that benefits the human species as a whole is essentially something that's right. These are very basic things, like it's generally not good to terminate a life of another person without their consent. Of course, modern morality is far more complex than this archaic and outdated relic that has been handed to us through evolution. Certain things that influence modern morality would be our heightened intellectual development, and with that, certain laws made by society, certain values held by society, as well as communities and families and the individual. Interestingly enough, these modern influences that affect our morality today can not only improve upon this very basic skeleton of morality handed to us through evolution, it can also override it in some instances. For example, it is generally not a good thing to terminate the life of a human being. However, if it is through the act of self-defense, then it is very much considered right in modern context. I guess you can say the driving mechanism for morality in each and every one of us is opportunity cost. What benefits do we feel that we gain through a certain action compared to the losses that might occur as a result of said action? Certain factors that we consider beneficial in this exchange of opportunity cost will include how we feel that our decision might increase the happiness of ourselves, of others around us, and of society, how it maximizes our health, the health of others around us, and of society, and how it minimizes the suffering of one or all of the three. And conversely, some of the costs that we consider are in any way if it minimizes the health, happiness, and maximizes the suffering of us, others around us, and our society. I personally feel that that's a very good way to explain where morality comes from, because it really does, I feel, apply to everyone, even certain people like murderers and psychopaths and rapists, because essentially what it comes down to is they want to avoid suffering too, they want to maximize their health and happiness, they just feel that the suffering of other people is a cost that is greatly outweighed by the benefits of their own happiness. Now, I will refer to this as a two-tiered system of morality. To review, the first tier, or part of our morality, is what has been handed down to us through evolution. These are the very basics that ensure the survival of the human species. The second part of our morality is essentially the product of many years of human progress, of time, and of logical thought and reasoned thinking. Once upon a time, it was okay to stone homosexuals. Now it is considered immoral to show bigotry towards homosexuals. Once upon a time, it was okay to keep a slave. Now it's not okay. I can already sense you religious people saying, "Oh, well, I don't trust humanity. Humanity is sinful and makes mistakes all the time. I'd rather put my faith in something that's completely infallible and grounded. Like what was right 1,000 years ago is right now, what was wrong 1,000 years ago is wrong now." And you know what? I find that to be a really childish view of the world. That you are completely so narrow-minded that you're not willing to accept any form of change, no matter how good it might be. Now, I guess you can say that human progress, and with it human morality, is much like a sword. It must always be sharpened and must always be conditioned in order for it to maintain a nice, beautiful edge. Now, if you leave a sword out for 1,000 years and stubbornly claim that that edge is just as sharp as it was 1,000 years ago, well, all you're going to end up with is a very rusty-ass sword. See the connection? Morality must always be maintained and sharpened through years and lots of time dedicated to ethical thought and legal progression. While if you leave morality to sit there and stubbornly claim that this is constantly right and it will be right 1,000 years later, then morality will rust and become outdated and pretty much useless. This is my secular view of morality, and I don't need a god or a creator or some sort of omnipotent supernatural being to tell me what's right or wrong. Thanks for watching, guys, and I know this video is really long, but I wanted to just get all my points out there so people would stop asking these questions and I would stop ignoring them. So if you stuck through the end, thanks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. May the truth always be heard.